What does a necromancer call his injuries? Boo-boos. What's going on, YouTube? It is Friday. We have our new studio set up here. The only issue is we're still working on some lighting things, but we're inside the Hollow City, inside of Cold Harbor, to go over our first of two weekend vendors. We start with more Halloween-themed items. You're going to notice a theme of Reach here as well. Briarheart stuff, skeletal remains. Some of these items seem to do really, really well over time, and then other ones seem to just be absolutely horrible. And we'll talk about which ones are actually good, as you kind of can see all of them here. This is a brand new item, by the way. This is definitely going to be worth a significant amount of money, in my opinion. It combines a significant valuable things of pumpkins and skeletons. People love those two things. As you can see there, we have a whole bunch of really unique items. And this is going to be a lot of Halloween-themed stuff, which makes sense. Happy Halloween, everybody. So the biggest gainers are going to be this arm. The tree's decent as well. Ignore the harpy totem. The minecart's pretty decent as well. It doubles in value. The actual saplings are a bit of a gamble, in my opinion. The archway is not worth it. The totem is probably not going to be enough value. You're going to have to buy too many of them. You're going to have to flood the market. To me, though, this week's biggest kind of cool item is definitely going to be getting yourself a couple of these bad boys for your Halloween-themed houses. The Murkmire tree is also pretty cool. It's a traditional furnishing. It's pretty big. It's cool. And then the witch's remains. I mean, these bad boys glow. They do all sorts of other little things. People just love that, and that's reflected in the value. Honestly, if you're looking for profit, a mixture of all of these items is going to be pretty good for you. But I will say the newest item on there that has no average yet is going to be really good. And then the witch's remains are always really good sellers. And you can never go wrong with a couple of the cheap items as well, including the minecart. But just remember, Halloween is also ending, meaning we may not see the value of these items re-reflected until a whole 365 days. So you might not be able to get your money back immediately, which is a gamble if you need money like right now. Next up, we're inside the Northern High Rock Gate inside of Cyrodiil. The map's not looking too bad here for the boys in blue. And if you're interested, please hit the subscribe button. We're less than 100 subscribers away from 34,000. But let us talk about the sets that are in store. And we start with the newer set from the Naj new dungeon. I don't even want to try to pronounce it. Is the set itself actually good? So the helmet means you don't have to go farm it on veteran. It gives you 1 bar of health. The second bar, while in combat, performing a roll dodge creates a 6-meter pool of blood. After a 1-second delay, it does some magic damage. And you gain a damage shield for 6 seconds based on the total damage done up to 15,000. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. So, a whole bunch of weird stuff going on with this. The biggest issue with a set like this is, one, it doesn't do anything helpful. That's a pretty big problem when you're trying to use a set in ESO. Because if you ask yourself, what's the utilization for this? Tanks don't need this. Tanks are not roll dodging around dungeons. Support characters are not roll dodging around the dungeon either. So, and in PvP, the shield's going to be cut in half. Yeah, sure, a 7,500 shield is better than a slap in the face, but it's not really going to give you a whole lot of health or help, and all you're doing is creating a pool of blood. You know, you need to do more than create a kiddie pool for your enemies to die and, unfortunately, to kill people in Cyrodiil. The bonuses are just not worth it, really, across any types of content. I'll give it a 6. You know, it's not obnoxious, the stats that it gives you, but it just doesn't do anything synergistically with most stuff. Next up is from Red Petal Bastions. This would save you from having to farm that dungeon. It gives you 1 bar weapon and spell. Is one of the only dungeon sets to give you 1 bar of that, but there are a couple other alternatives if you need a 1 bar set. It is a 2-piece dealing direct damage with an area of effect ability, grants a 6-meter shadowy whirlwind behind your enemy for 7 seconds. Dealing some physical damage, and each second increases their damage taken from your area of effect abilities by 5%. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds and scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. So, a lot of things going on here. If you've watched a lot of my videos, you'll know immediately my initial thoughts on a set like this is I like sets that give you unnamed buffs. It's also interesting, you don't see increase their damage taken. You don't really see a whole lot of that as unnamed buffs across a lot of sets. So this is a pretty popular set to build around area of effect abilities. That being said, it's not currently in the meta to the sense where this is a best in slot meta monster set, but you could see you're doing a lot of things that a lot of PvE characters like to do, and because of that, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic set. If the meta shifts back towards doing crazy amounts of AoE and area of effect abilities, subclassing also makes it really easy to proc these. You can pick your favorite AoEs across all the classes in the game. So for me, a set like this is very synergistic with so many types of gameplay. It is an annoying, it's kind of an annoying dungeon, but it's farmed enough to where I don't think you need to buy this with Telvar or gold, but it is an option if you wanted to do so. I do think, though, that you could easily build a fun AoE kind of PvE DPS build with this. Don't expect to be in the highest echelons of the game. There's mythics that are better. There's other 5-piece sets that are better, but I do think you're right up there. If you were to build this, you could easily build a fantastic AoE-styled PvE build, and those usually do very well in most types of PvE content. Next up is from Blackwood, Deadlands Assassins. Don't let the price of this kind of underestimate how good of a set this is, because it's actually a pretty good set. So it gives you weapon and spell, max aim, and then a full 5-piece of 200 weapon and spell damage, and then another 5-piece of dealing damage to an enemy within 10 meters of you with a heavy attack causes you to throw a cone of knives, dealing some physical damage. And if an enemy has 50% less health, they also take an additional bleed damage over 14 seconds. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. It scales off your weapon or spell damage. So a set like this, a lot of people, when it first came out, were very big on it as a PvE set. Dealing heavy attacks, conal damage, all of that's exciting. But it's actually kind of pretty decent for PvP as well, because you don't need to do a full-on heavy attack. You can do a medium attack. What's a medium attack? It's that in-between between a light and a heavy attack. Where you hold it, let go very quickly, you do a medium attack. You can also proc a set like this, which is important because that actually makes the set significantly better than you might think it would be. The only downside, in my opinion, is I'm not a huge fan of bleed dots on PvP players. I do think, though, it does have its best home in the PvP meta. I don't think it's the greatest set in the world, but I give it like a 7.5. It's somewhere between good and great. There's so many other sets that you could use to proc with this, like the other newer, like the Construct Monster Helmet, where doing it, you have to do, unfortunately, a fully charged heavy attack, but you throw an axe at somebody, so you can throw knives and throw an axe at a group of people. And really, killing people in PvP just boils down to surprising them and bursting them 90% of the time, and those two sets alone would do a significant amount of that. So I think as far as it being a PvP set, I think it's pretty good. As a PvE set, it's not offensive. You're still doing a dot over time. You're doing a little bit of physical damage. You just don't have enough of that juice for the squeeze when it comes to traditional PvE set damage dealing, in my opinion, to be higher rated than it is as a PvP set. As a PvE set, I give it a 7. It's a good set. Next up is also from the Deadlands, which is a very farmed area, which is why the actual rings are so low there in value, even though they're actually pretty good as sets go, is the Eye of the Grasp. Now, this one's mag, weapon and spell, crit chance, which unfortunately is not super synergistic, but then when you deal critical damage, you generate 7 ultimate, and this can occur every 5 seconds. That's pretty good. It will stack, obviously. This is unnamed buff. How much I like those. You get major, minor heroism to stack with this. And you might find yourself in a situation where your 5-piece set, mixed with some skills and some other things, are generating you crazy amounts of ultimate. The only problem with a set like this is, as I said, it doesn't really synergize with itself. If it's 2 through 4, we're all crit chance, or all weapon and spell damage, or all something that kind of like was more thematic, you would see this set used a little bit more often. But for me, it is still a set that you could use to great extent. Now, whether or not use it for PvE, PvP, kind of just depends. It's certainly not offensive to build a PvE set around generating a ton of ultimate and dropping your ultimates more often. I generally think that ultimates are just more valuable for PvP because they also synergize. Being able to Dawnbreaker constantly is always great. You get a damage buff. Obviously, you have, Balorgs, which loves when you ultimate, and then ultimating with more ultimate, inside your ultimate bar is always good too. So for me, it's kind of in that weird mindset. I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think it's a good set. I don't think it's great in the current meta just because there's so many other ways to generate ultimate right now that it's not necessary. And you really don't see this set that often. So it's hard to say that it's great or fantastic. But I will say that it's halfway between good and great. Next up is from Ice Reach. We have Heaties. Now this one's Mag Recovery, Maximum Magicka. When you heal yourself for an ally with an ability, you gain a warming aura for 10 seconds. Let me just tell you right now, that aura is blinding and big. While in the warming aura, you and your group members restore 1675 health every 2 seconds, and you reduce the cost of your sprint, block, and roll dodge by 5%. This effect can occur once every 12 seconds, and it scales off the higher of your maximum magicka or stamina. So this is a set that's weird. Because you might think to yourself, Jake, support sets. There's always a need for support sets out there in this beautiful world. And sure, but in most PvE content, how often do I need to reduce the cost of my sprint, block, and roll dodge in a trial dungeon, whatever? Infinite Archive. I'm not like David. Get to my warming aura so we can reduce your block cost by 5%. He hustles over there, and then boom, once he's there, he's got a 5% sprint cost reduction as well. And he's like, thank God, Jake, I got here in time. And I'm like, good job, David. Now you can be completely blind because the warming aura is massive and huge. So the set is just all over the place. I think it needed a better benefit. Yes, the sprint, block, and roll dodge cost reduction could be good if it went with something else, maybe like a damage increase or maybe like an in-pen increase, keep you from getting critted, by people in PvP. You might see more utilization for it. I'll give it a 6. It's not offensive. It does heal you. It gives you some bonuses. You will be blind, so maybe that's a negative. Maybe I have to go below 5 because you're literally blinding your allies with it, but you are healing them when you're blinding them, so I don't know what you do with that. Maybe we just give it a 5 and move on. Next up is Reynolds. Resolve. I don't know who Reynolds is, but he's got a lot of resolve, and he is going to be coming from Moongrave Fane. Now, he gives you health, healing taken, maximum health. Whenever you deal direct damage, you gain a stack of resolve for 5 seconds. Each stack increases your healing received by 1% and your physical and spell resistance, and you can have 9 stacks of that. So you're actually getting yourself a pretty decent amount of resources, all things considered, for what you're doing. And overall, I think you could find a use for a set like this. The only issue is the meta doesn't really value healing received and physical and spell resistance as much as it does like Rallying Cry's crit resistance for PvP. Because yes, people will compare a set like this to Fortified Brass, for example. But the problem is 2025, people are really running Fortified Brass. We're too worried about getting monomyth crit damage to death. And as far as dungeons, yes, the physical and spell resistance increase and the healing received, as far as selfish tanks go, is certainly not bad. The only problem is it's not necessarily very good in the sense that most tanks are going to be using different types of support sets for their group. I don't know where you put a set like this as its best utilization, some sort of PvP off meta, physical and spell resistance increase while also getting a lot of extra healing. Hard to say. I'll give it a 7 just because I think it's not offensive. I think you could build a good set around a set like this just because it is so unique at what it does and how good it is. Unnamed buffs, we love those. So I'll give it a 7. And overall, this week has definitely been very interesting. It's funny that the best set this week is Deadlands Assassins, but this set is pretty good. And I do think actually you could build a really fun set with a set like this. And Prior Theoric has also, obviously, the juice is definitely worth the squeeze for him, just because he also is giving unnamed buffs. But a lot of unnamed buffs this week, which is great, because it's a good talking point to explain why an unnamed buff is better than a named one, because you can't stack the named ones together. If you got Major Resolve, you got Major Resolve. You can have it 20 times. You're getting it once when it comes to your actual stat line. You can have all the unnamed buffs in the world. That's why they're so good. But everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. As always, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. Unfortunately, I meant to do a video yesterday, so the drawing hidden word is on this video. So sorry about that. I didn't get a chance to set up this, and then there was internet problems. Xfinity had to come out and do all sorts of weird Xfinity things. So bit of a disaster. But if you don't mind, hit the subscribe button and leave a like, a comment on the video. We'll do a video tomorrow as recompense for being not doing it yesterday. So thank you guys so much again for watching. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.